What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel as well as on Twitch, so make sure you come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by my music, which is available anywhere you stream music under the name Aftersound. And I do have a new song out recently called Tides, so check it out. Let me know what you think, and I appreciate the support. All right, guys, so we are a little under 3 days or so from the passing of this proposal to hire Splinterlands, the company, to create a mini set. Now, you can see that this is passing right now with about 86% support. For all intents and purposes, I think this is going to pass. Once again, this is not unexpected. I don't think Dave would have put this forth. I don't think the team would have put this forth unless they knew that they would have the backing to go for it. You can also see that I voted for this. So everything that I'm about to get into, this is not me being like, super negative and trying to throw shade. Like, not at all. I'm simply just trying to call it out like it is. And that is the simple fact that for the foreseeable future, the Flywheel will be effectively dead. Now, this is disappointing because I have been waiting for us to get to this point, to September, to get to the point where the team would start buying DEC off the marketplace to get us back to PEG and then slowly transition to buying SPS and burning that SPS for DEC once we were back at PEG. So now that we are here, this proposal is going to essentially take 1.2 billion DEC out of the DAO and put it back into circulation. Yes, the team will be holding on to it, but given the amount of purchases and things like that, all the transactions that happen on the secondary market, they will be paying that out, and it will eventually make its way. So, just first and foremost, I want to say for all the people who were like up in arms against me when I said we should burn all the DEC in the DAO, this is exactly why, right? Because I don't ever want that DEC to make its way out again. I don't want either the community or the company or anybody else to be tempted to take it out just because it's holding this value. What this value does is you are borrowing against the future, right? You are essentially devaluing the amount of DEC that's out there now and saying, well, hey, we're just going to push a bunch more out into the ecosystem. And the flywheel is just going to get delayed, right? So again, it's disappointing. And I say that fully understanding the fact that I'm voting for this, right? But it's just this is where we are moving towards. I'm not going to fight the current. I'm going to go with the flow, and I'm going to try and see what the benefits are. And that's kind of what I talked about previously. But I do want to focus in on what we are sacrificing for this. Again, I'm not going to change my vote. I'm not telling anybody else to vote against it. I'm simply saying that here are the secondary order effects that are going to happen from this. So just running some quick numbers for you, right? To give you a full context of this, if we keep that 40 million DEC that the team roughly gives out in for every week for back-end transactions, that 1.2 billion divided by 40 million per week is 30 weeks, right? So that's more than half the year. 26 weeks is half the year, right? So we're talking about like 7-ish months, 7 to 8 months from the point that they get it, that the team will no longer be buying DEC off the marketplace because they'll be sitting on a ton of it, right? Well, literally 1.2 billion of it. Now, maybe they'll go through and sell some of that on the secondary market. I know a lot of people say that the team doesn't sell DEC. Again, if they do, I don't fault them for that, right? They have to pay their bills, and this is going to be a huge source of income for them since they're not doing any kind of revenue share. But either way, they'll be sitting on a large amount of DEC. The other thing that I think can provide some context for this is just how many packs we need to sell in order to lock this DEC up once again. Now, I'm going to use Conclave Arcana standard packs, and if you just do the 1.2 billion divided by 4,000, right, that gets you to roughly 300,000 packs just to cover the volume, right? Now, keep in mind, only half of that, only 2,000 DEC, goes back and gets locked up in the DAO. So it's actually not 300,000 packs. 300,000 packs would just be the volume required. It would be 600,000 packs we would need to sell, additional Conclave Arcana standard packs, just to lock up this same DEC back up in the DAO. I don't know what our daily burn rate is. Maybe it's about 1 million or so. Either way, it doesn't matter, right? The whole point is that this idea that we will be burning SPS for DEC, that is going away until 2026 sometime, right? Maybe early 2026, maybe middle of 2026. But for right now, there's just going to be way too much DEC out there. And you can see that DEC has just got absolutely hammered in its value. I'm looking at it right now. It's 0.76. Now, again, the silver lining to this is like, okay, well, you can go and essentially buy Conclave Arcana packs for 25% off right now, right? Standard packs are going for $3. What's that called? Starter packs are going for 75 cents. Like, it's a pretty good way to get into the game. And then on the flip side, with SPS not really spiking up to 1.4 cents yet, you're looking at a a significant discount in both SPS and DEC, right, on the upcoming mini set when that does get launched in December, right? Because you can kind of pre-buy now if that's what you're looking to do. But either way, like this idea of the flywheel really getting going the way that I was hoping it would is essentially over for the time being, right? I am going to give up on this idea until probably Q2 of 2026, right? That's kind of how I'm seeing it. If it's going to be like 7 to 8 months from now, we're really not going to see any kind of momentum on there. Now, that being said, this doesn't mean that we can't see the reverse flywheel or we can't see a massive spike in SPS, which can essentially create the same kind of demand, right, for DEC, or even just new players coming into the space, or if alt season ever does arrive, that could obviously change things too. My whole point with this is that we can still be very successful with kind of doing things in a backwards way, right? Where SPS starts to fly, so then people start coming into the game, or people start spending money within the game because the rewards all of a sudden are worth it and are good. They start burning that SPS or selling that SPS to buy, packs or whatever, and locking up the DEC, and DEC starts to go up and yada, yada, yada. My whole point with this is like, we don't really know what's going to happen, right? We don't really know what's going to happen because there's too many other factors. What I am saying will happen, though, is that there's just going to be way too much DEC out there. That being said, to look at the bright side of this, right, with the flywheel essentially being dead, what we're trying to do, or what it seems like we're trying to do with this proposal, is create more SPS scarcity. So instead of burning the SPS, right, instead of eating through the rest of the DEC in order to burn the SPS, we are essentially trading a good amount of DEC, right? So 1.2 billion DEC out into the ecosystem for SPS. And, I think it's like 180 million SPS if if the entire thing sells out, which I don't think that's going to be the case. Even if we get half of that, right, or close to like 100 million SPS, I don't think that that's a bad trade necessarily. And I haven't done the math on it yet. Maybe I'll save that for a separate video. But I don't think that that's a bad trade, right? We want to lock up this SPS. Obviously, it'd be better if it got burned. But we also want to make sure that the DAO is supplied with more funds in the future. Now, I've been an advocate of this in many other videos, and especially in previous videos, where I want to make sure that the DAO has SPS for the future, but I also want to make sure the DAO is setting up rewards in perpetuity, right? So I'm not going to get into that whole thing here, but it is good for the DAO to continue to receive SPS rewards just in case the game wants to expand with new game modes, or we want to do some partnerships, right? Similar to what we did with the tower defense game. And I know, don't get caught up on the fact that the tower defense game wasn't successful in and of itself. Hopefully there will be other opportunities in the future that will be successful collaborations and ventures. But either way, we want SPS to be going back into the DAO, or the DAO to be earning back SPS in some ways. I think that this is a good start. It's not perfect, and I have lined up all of the reasons why, because it's essentially killing one of the main drivers for SPS and the spiking of SPS value. But it's kind of trying to do that in a backwards way by creating that scarcity. Now, we've burned like 100 million SPS already for Conclave Arcana, so the ability for Conclave Arcana and its associated mini sets to lock up anywhere between, to lock up an additional 100 to 200 million SPS, right? So we're talking about anywhere from 2 to 300 million SPS being the net impact of Conclave Arcana. I think that's pretty good. Like, that's not bad. That's like 10% of the supply, and that's like 30%, 20 to 30% of what's currently out there, right? That's not, being held by the DAO, that's currently considered liquid or whatever the case is. And again, I haven't looked at all the numbers yet. I know there's like 1 billion staked, and we got, the DAO holding on to a decent amount. But either way, if we can see that, if we can start to create a little bit more scarcity for SPS as the demand starts to go up. And again, that demand won't be coming from the flywheel, but maybe from new players coming in, or over time, with SPS getting more utility. There's no perfect way forward. We're trying something new here. I understand why we're trying to do it. I'm even supportive of it, but it's definitely killing what we were trying to do previously, and that hurts a little bit. So, just wanted to put this video out there. This is coming in a little bit later because I know Dave went on to the People's Guild and talk through a lot of the his thought process with this, which again I agree with 100%. I'm glad that he took the time to do that. Shout out to People's Guild and all the folks that were on there. Unfortunately, I could not make it, but I think that this is going to be an interesting venture forward. I do think 1.2 billion DEC is a hefty price tag for it, but if we can luck up even 100 million SPS, which is like roughly half, I think the numbers will be worth it. Just saying. I think the numbers might be worth it. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.